Hello, Joe, Joseph. Don't know what you prefer to be called. I just watched your video. I thought it was great. You give a very good look at what's going on in Korea. Um, so I just wrote down a couple of things. Um, you mentioned that it's been on the verge of war since the armistice. Absolutely, yeah. It seems like the North Koreans, would fire on that South Korean island. I can't remember its name, and we wouldn't declare war. We'd fly our planes over the top of them. They wouldn't declare war. There'd just be this crazy saber rattling for 70 years, and I'm glad that it looks like it's finally coming to an end. You mentioned learning about how the tactics changed for each war, and that was really interesting because, like you mentioned, World War One. There was the trench warfare, the industrialization of war. World War Two was much more blitzkrieg. There was island hopping. There was large-scale bombing campaigns. Korea, so a lot of those things really came together. And the tactics actually changed in the Korean War. So at the beginning, it was kind of that blitzkrieg where we fought the North Koreans back to the Yalu River. And then following that, there was, when we got pushed back, there was kind of that intense trench. It was trench warfare. It was the hilltop warfare. It wasn't meat grinder tactics. So you said that war should be a last resort. I agree. I just think it's an interesting thing to say because at what point does one decide this? Like with the Israelis during the Six-Day War, they fired first. So they decided at some point that enough was enough. And it happens in many countries, in many wars, when the attacker is not necessarily the person who started it. So at some point we have to decide when enough is enough and war can be legitimately declared. There's always that debate on what a righteous war is. And I can't remember exactly what the argument was at this moment. I'd have to look it up. But a righteous war, look it up if you haven't heard of it already. You probably have. But the definition of a righteous war and that whole debate about what makes a war righteous, and it's centered around the Christian belief system. So anyway, righteous war, look that up. I also disagree with those people who don't think that it's our responsibility to defend South Korea. They're a friend, an ally, trading partner, an important place in the world, a Christian nation who really didn't ask for any of this. So if they were to be attacked, then I don't see why we would not fulfill our obligations. I would expect the same from them. That's what an alliance is about. So those people I don't think they know what they're talking about. If we can denuclearize the peninsula, what can't we do? I mean, it seems like that should be that's our first step towards this peace process, but really that's like the end game. So I think that that's really cool. We're kind of starting at the end, the art of the deal, perhaps. And speaking of that, people criticize Trump for his stance with dictators. You hear it all the time, that he's more chummy with Putin or more chummy with Kim Jong than he is with Macron or Merkel. Well, I subscribe to the adage, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And so I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I like how he's working with them to try to end this. It really seems legitimate, at least from our part, and it seems legitimate on their part at this point. We're going to have to definitely keep an eye on him, make sure that he's not trying to play us. But he's not really in a position to do so. So anyway, thank you very much for your video. I look forward to talking with you some more.